You hear a lot of these things about casting because of so many Instagram followers and things like that. I don't think anything of any kind, those kind of conversations came into our creative discussions.
Be knowledgeable, not to answer questions or something, but just for the knowledge itself. Okay.
And be ready to fail and don't get. I mean, that's the best part of it, right? You fail so often that it becomes part of your nature to kind of just rise every day. So just be prepared for all of that and just enjoy the ride.
Be a little prepared for the type of industry you're going to join.
And there is a Manmohan Desai fan in you who wants to make that movie, right? Who wants to take that horse cart and go through into the swimming pool when they're saying Indians and dogs are allowed.
There's no more, you can't sit at home and complain like, oh, I can't get to this, I don't have Shah Rukh Khan in my movie, so it's never going to make me. So what? Use your neighbors, use your moms, cast your sister, whatever you want to do, and make something cool.
There is a Killian Kerwin watching, there is a Vishakha Singh watching, there is a Mahesh Mathai watching. And no matter how many naysayers can come and tell you this is dying, this is never going away. And you have everything in your hand right now. Just go out and make it.
Alright, quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
And action.
When we think of sports dramas in Indian cinema, we think of the grit of Chak De or the stakes of Lagan. And when we hear the word Kashmir, the conversation often gravitates towards conflict or chaos. But today we are joined by the team that decided to show the resilient Kashmir, the Kashmir of hope, football, and the beautiful sentiment. Kashmir ke bina pura India kaise hoga? Please welcome the team behind the Real Kashmir Football Club. Thank you for joining, all of you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to start with a signature question for a 17-year-old or 18-year-old watching this from a tier 3 city or a small town who has just fallen in love with cinema, the craft, who has no godfather or map. What is their take one? Mahesh, you started with an ad film at 22. Simaab, you are in the writer's room. Looking back at your younger selves, what is the practical step one should take today? Where to start? Mahesh, can you?
Well, if you've decided that this is what you want to be, I'd say, first of all, when I say educate yourself, I don't mean it in a formal sense, but read as much as you can about the zone that you're going to go into, whether it's whatever kind of cinema that you like. Be knowledgeable, not to answer questions or something, but just for the knowledge itself. Okay, and I didn't have a formal training, so I kept looking for a place I could break in and do anything. It happened to be in advertising. It might have been any part of cinema, but I happened to be able to get an intern's job for no money in advertising. Right. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, be a little prepared for the type of industry you're going to join. Read up if you're interested. It's not a job. It's something you want to do. So right. don't think of it as a job. That's my first.
Makes sense. Simaab, you want to add anything?
I mean, I think a lot has changed now. Yeah? I mean, there are so many places like The Final Take, and there are so many other YouTube channels and places where you can gain so much knowledge now. I mean, just like when I started out, there wasn't so much access to, you would probably go to like the Mami film festivals of the world as an 18-year-old and trying to hear people talk in masterclass and figure out what they want to do. But I think I don't think I'm anyone going to give advice to anybody. But I would say if there's a younger generation out there, I would say just don't think about doing something, just start doing it. I think a lot of times I meet a lot of younger people who keep saying, I want to make a movie or I want to write a script one day. If I get commissioned or if I do this. And I just say, just write, just take your phone, make it. I think, and that's the easiest thing to do. I think that's how you can start.
Right. Thank you. Killian, anything you want to add?
I would just add to what both Simaab and Mahesh said, which is once you decide to commit to this is what you want to do, and then as Simaab said, just do it. Keep on doing it. Don't give up. And it's like anything. Yes, on one hand it's a job, and on the other hand it's got to be a passion. And anything you're passionate about, you got to wake up every morning and you got to want to do it, and you must do it. Even though sometimes it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel and you're a long way from being where you think you want to be, you got to do it one step at a time. You got to keep persevering.
Vishakha, ma'am?
Well, I don't know if it's the right thing to say or not. I actually came from a tier 2 city, even though I'm from Delhi. I used to live in Ghaziabad, but I've been a very cosmopolitan person all my life, though. But I did come all the way from Ghaziabad to Mumbai to follow my dreams. And of course, I wanted to be an actor. And back when I started off, there was no training ground, and I'm still not trained either in acting or producing or whatever else that I've done in my life. So yes, the trick is to land up to your closest cinema mecca, just be there, absorb. And even if you're not able to read, I mean, I think your generation is so lucky. You have access to so much information. The internet has democratized everything. Uh, just soak all of that in and be ready to fail, and don't get, I mean, that's the best part of it, right? You fail so often that it becomes part of your nature to kind of just rise every day. So just be prepared for all of that and just enjoy the ride.
Right. Okay. Coming to RKFC now. So they say a series is a writer's medium. So Simab, let's start with you. So my question is, as a writer, how do you sit down and write a script that chooses hope and resilience over the usual chaos? Because I have an anecdote related to that. I was watching this with my sister. So she's not a very much into shows and all, and we were having dinner, and she only saw the word Kashmir, and she was like, "Is this another show about chaos?" And I'm not gonna watch it. And we were having this discussion. Then I didn't answer her. I just pressed the play button, and as we were halfway into the episode, even though she had her office the next day, we built the entire season like till three or four in the morning. So it was like that. It wasn't about the usual Kashmir we hear. My question is to Simab: how do you sit and write a script that chooses hope and resilience over the usual chaos? How did you start with that?
Well, you first of all you sit and write it because Killian is texting you from LA saying, "When am I getting my draft?"
Right, of
But
course.
but first of all, thank you, Bhavesh. Thank you to you and your sister for taking the time out to watch our show. I'm so grateful that we could keep you hooked till 3 a.m. in the night. But next time weekend पे देख लो यार, Sunday को. But I honestly I think it's a feeling. I think we always gravitate towards, I think as filmmakers, writers, creators, we always gravitate towards a feeling that you get when you hear a story, a feeling that you get when you tell the story to somebody and you see the same feeling that you had when you
Right.
hear someone else hear it for the first time. And I think that's what motivates you to keep going. I think the only way I ever think of a story that I want to keep pursuing is if it stays playing on my mind even after a few months of first coming up with it, or like in this case, reading up about the article. When I read about it, when I would speak about it to my friends and my people around me, and it kept playing on my mind, saying that, okay, this is one that shouldn't be just unsaid. Someone needs to find a way to tell it. And I think that's what motivates you to sit in front of a computer slash desk and say that, okay, I'm going to sit down and write this out. And of course, I mean, this is the emotional answer. It's not the theoretical answer. It's not the practical answer, but it's the answer, I think, that tells you exactly what you want to feel and what gives you that feeling that you want to sit down and write something.
Mahesh sir, you have directed everything from the iconic Cadbury ad Asli Swad to the Lucky Ali song Suno album. So you have the legendary ability to capture pure emotion. What was it about the RKFC story that made you say, "This is the human story I want to tell"?
Well, originally, just the fact that it was set in Kashmir and football, because I knew the gist of when Kilian sir, asked me to look at this in 2022, I think the fact that it was set in Kashmir and the struggle of not just two guys but a bunch of youngsters in Kashmir. It's not one, all of it just excited me, and I said this is something I can't let go, because I was looking to do something in this zone. I mean, yes, I had done commercials, I've done films, I've done all forms, but I'd never done this long form. Okay, and I was really really looking forward to doing long form, and but I also wanted to do something that I wanted to do, and this was like a gift from heaven, just the perfect subject, perfect story. I said, you know what, don't let this go, don't let this go. So I sort of grabbed it. What was it? I mean, in 2022, I think it was 22. Kilian, wasn't it 2022 when we first spoke?
Yes.
What do young boys? This was a story about boys. What do young boys, teenagers, do in a situation where in a in a war that's got nothing to do with them really. What do they do? How do they, how do they find their way? So that's what got me.
Great, great.
So I was watching the interview the other day of Mahesh sir, Manav sir, and Simab. And Mahesh sir and Simab are here. So they, Killian sir, they called you the goalkeeper of the team, the man who's handling everything at the back end. So we live in a world where producers are seen as guys who often say no to things. How do you come as so flexible? You say yes to the last minute changes on the set.
Well, first of all, I say no to a lot of things, as does Vishakha. As producers, we have to say no. We say no to projects we read every day. We say no to decisions that people think they want to make on the projects. And, because we're looking after, sometimes it's great to be Samab and Mahesh and being able to have whatever you want to call it, your creative freedom.
Right.
And we always aim to do it, to follow the vision. But sometimes the vision conflicts with something else, mostly the budget. Because as producers, you have to be looking, I think Vishakha and I are both very creative people, but we also have to look at the numbers. We're still looking at the numbers, and the numbers have to make sense, especially in the climate we're in now, the sort of golden age of 5 or 6, 7 years ago when the platforms came to town and there seemed to be a lot of commissions and a lot of money running around. Those days, as we all know, sadly, all too well, have left us. So I appreciate the kind words of being whatever the goalkeeper, but I think our job as producers is to empower our creative partners and to keep the drama away from them, because there's a lot of drama behind the scenes, fighting for every rupee, dealing with managers, agents, locations, all the logistics. We have a great line producer, also a production services company, Yamini, on our set too, that backstopped RKFC. And the producer is sort of the glue that, yes, you have to enable people, you have to say no sometimes, you have to be the cheerleader sometimes, because it's not always fun. And so the producer wears a lot of hats. Very, very obvious what a writer does, I think. It's very obvious what a director does. It's very obvious what an actor does. It's not always obvious what a producer does. And I think the producer has to do a lot of tap dancing and you're the den mom, or you're the troop dad, or you're the psychologist sometimes for everybody. You're the shoulder to cry on. You're the person that lights the fire under people's behinds so that they wake up every morning. Sometimes we all have a down day, and so I think it's just like Mahesh. I believed in this project when Vishakha and Samab brought it to me. Like, I couldn't put it down either. I wouldn't let go, and none of us have let go over. This was a long, long journey over many, many years, 6, 7 years, to get this to where it is today. So we're talking to you guys. So there are many things a producer does, but keeping the faith and perseverance, as I said before.
Vishakha ma'am, you have played Kaveri, Shri's wife. So there is a beautiful balance there. She's a supportive wife. How much of Kaveri was written in the script, and how much did you bring from your own journey of being an entrepreneur or a risk taker?
I think Simab can answer a lot of, because Simab is a very, very dear friend of mine who knows me personally and who knows Kaveri, the character. So when I think we were on a recce in 2023 in Kashmir when Simab and Wang and Mahesh brought this up. And the role it's a very balanced role. She's a strong support to Shirish. I don't know if I really brought in much of my character to it. I think I was just being Kaveri. I don't know how else to explain this. And it's actually a very linear role. It's not too complex. And so I think that's one of the reasons it was easy to essay the role as well. But Simab, do you want to add to that? I mean, do you see any similarities between me and Kaveri?
I think, to answer the question, Rakesh, I think, a lot of it actually happened because Vishakha was part of the writing process. Where, whenever we would write step outlines or writer episodes, there was always, we would do one round internally, then we would go up and then keep going up. And a lot of those things would come from Vishakha, even when she was not playing Kaveri. So, a lot of those things have come from her in terms of giving her agency sometimes, or what is the kind of thing she would say if she was in this kind of a place. So I think there was a metamorphosis that happened while she was a producer that became a part of Kaveri. And then serendipity that it happened that she ended up playing Kaveri. But I think there was a natural progression of her looking at Kaveri from the outside and then I think going inside and playing her. So I think she understood Kaveri because I think she knew Kaveri for a while.
Makes
That's
Okay,
how I
Can
think.
okay.
I just, if I can add to that too, I would say
Yes, yes.
that Vishakha also added the other characters, Ghazal, right?
Yeah.
Sohail's wife, Ruhi, Ghazal's assistant thing, Samina, Dilshad's sister. All, as Vishakha said, most of them are relatively linear because this really is a story about two men and about a bunch of boys, as Mahesh called them, who form a club. But the women in their lives are important, and we went to great extent, especially Vishakha, to make sure that these were not wooden characters, that these women actually had dimension to them and meaning to the story, not just placeholders. Oh, everybody has to have a wife or a girlfriend or a sister or mother. We tried our best to give those characters real depth. Linear as they may be, they were dimensional. But thanks to Vishakha.
No,
Very
and I
well
must,
said.
it's something I've mentioned in the interview is that it becomes very easy to do so because all of us, Killian, Simab, Mahesh, they're all feminists out here. So I think we were very, very clear that all our women of RKFC would be extremely strong women in their own right.
Okay, Samab, you were on the set throughout. Usually, the writer's job ends at the draft. How did being on the ground in Kashmir change the way you looked at the characters? Did any local person you might end up influencing a dialogue or a scene because you were there before? Like, you were in Shikara, you were telling this story.
Yeah, I think I'll answer the second part first, even though the first part is actually what's really been a big learning and lesson for me on this show. And the second part is, of course, yeah, I did spend a lot of time in Kashmir. And I was very kind and lucky. Again, I'm going to say to my producers sitting here, because, it's very easy for producers to say no, like you said, that when a person says, oh, you know what, I want to go, I don't know Kashmir from Adam, so I want to go and spend time in Kashmir. I want to spend time with the people there. And Vishaka and then Killian were kind enough to always support that. I think because Vishaka has been an actor, so she knows how important it is to get in the skin of people and get in that world. Killian's a writer. Killian knows how important it is to be a part of the world. So I think the fact that the two of them could give us that opportunity to spend time there, because I think it really shaped a lot of the feedback that I keep getting, and people have been writing such lovely messages to me, and most of it is that Kashmiris write that saying that we feel so represented, and I think that could only happen because of the time we spent there. And it's not like, oh, something really, really, oh, I used this dialogue or this scene. But again, I think I want to go back to my first answer. I used the feeling I got when I was in those houses.
Right.
I used the feeling I was in those kitchens, when I would be in the kitchen with those mothers and we would be serving food. And, I'd stay over and the uncle would come and give me his t-shirt to wear because I'm staying over in the night. And I think I used a lot of that. I think that a lot of that became a part of this. And yeah, I think I was lucky enough to be on the set, and I was there through the experience. And and honestly, I keep saying this because Mahesh, of course, has a funny take on this and how he looks at it. But I Mahesh has kind of spoiled me a lot because there are directors I'm working with now, and I keep giving his example, saying that Mahesh was just too kind to me, and it was just so collaborative where it like I would just go to him on days we were losing light and on days when it felt like, oh, we have done enough, and I would just go says, Mahisa, can we please do this like this? And I could see it on his face that he wanted to give me the F and the O word, but he would still tell me, okay, go and tell them, let's do this. I could see that, and as a director, he's fighting to make the day and that. But he was always just so nice to me, and I think he's kind of spoiled me, and where I'm going to now feel left, I'm always going to be feel let down by everybody else. But yeah, honestly, I think it was great for me because I think I learned so much in terms of how to be malleable and not to be stuck to the written word, because it's great to always have a draft and have a page ready, but it's so important because sometimes writers, and I always feel this, and I work with collaborators around me, sometimes we get stuck to what we came up with, what we thought, and what we think is the God's word, because like the Bible for us. But sometimes you have to just look at a right actor saying it and he's not convinced, and no matter how well your line is written and no matter how well you've constructed the scene, if the actors are not convinced, it's not going to land through. It's not going to come out the way you think. So you have to be, you have to think on your feet and work around that. And I think Mahesa really gave us all, and me, the actors, everybody, the level, the playing field to do that. So yeah, and that's just my nice version of it. I'm sure Mahesh has another version of that story.
I wanna hear the Mahesh sir's version
It's
of it.
no, well, it's an extension of what you're saying, Simab, because I would say earlier on, before this series, the sort of uh, largely the sort of director I was, I didn't want the writer on set because the job was over, it's done now, it's written, I'll take it from here type of thing, and then work it forward, and then that was the way I preferred earlier. But I have to say, with the actors, with Simab, with Killian, with Vishakha, with all of us there, see, there was okay. Before we went off, we knew we were going to shoot in Kashmir. How much were we going to shoot in Kashmir? How much were we going to shoot here? All of that changed as we went on the journey there. Okay, because Kashmir is like the homes and the people spoke to Simab, the place spoke to me, to all of us. Okay, and so there was no way you could ignore that. So to adapt to that, and that includes the actors. When the actors got there, it spoke to them. So you have to be interactive to a situation like that because it speaks a lot to you. And that's how you get the flavor of a place. Kashmir is not like any other place in India, okay? And it's very little known to most people. So if you want all of that to come, you got to be open to it. You got to let it speak to you, and you got to listen. So it happened like that with the actors because the two lead actors were phenomenal. I mean, Manav, his first reading it was no, I won't say this. I will say this. I like this. And it was not about an argument. Do you want to listen to that guy? Is he doing it? So then, if you're doing that, then you got to turn back to the writer and the producers and say, hold on, listen, it's better like this. So the interactive process is something I definitely learned how to do. And as Simab says, even we're all spoiled, because this is a process I'd like to do. Go with the whole crew and be able to adapt it, and I can't thank Kilian enough because we were able to do it there. There were no, tomorrow rewrite, etc. It was done overnight or done in a few hours, and we did it. And what you're seeing is a result of that interactive, cooperative working. But you got to be ready for it. You got to be prepared for it. You can't. You got to have your chops. You got to have your skills in every, in all departments to be able to deliver that because it's not. We never, at the max, we would have delayed a shoot by an hour or 2 hours in a day, max. Okay, and even that. I'm not going to delay shoots and stuff like that, but we got that up straight off. So it's not that we scheduled 60 days or whatever, 61 days or whatever it was, and we finished in those days. Okay, so it was not. So this is not a luxury that you use to go over budget or over schedule or any of those things. You still have to keep that in mind. So I mean, I love that process. I fear till this season 2, I'm not going to be able to get another experience like that, because I don't think other sets work like that. I don't think other jobs work.
Saying this is just something that keeps coming to my mind whenever I think of those days. It's like, we would change things up and, you would always have, like I said, Killian was right there. So we'd go up to him and be like, okay, Killian was like, okay, what's going on? And I'd be like, Killian, we might be changing this. And he would just say, is it better? And I would say, I think it is. He'd say, okay, go for it. So just to like Mahesh said, just to have that, right? Just to have that faith that he would always show in us, I think it's spoiled us. This man sitting right here has spoiled us.
So just to add to your question that you asked right at the beginning, what do you tell a 17-year-old, 18-year-old coming from tier 2 or tier 3 city? Besides getting all the knowledge that you can from wherever you are and trying to get into whatever the way you can into some form of filming or writing or whatever you want to do. Right. Be prepared for something if it comes your way. Okay, that's honestly in the last 10 years, that's my not mantra, but be prepared. If you might wish for something, but if it came to you, don't suddenly look around. You better. It's like a ball being passed you. You better know what to do with it. So be prepared. Prepare yourself.
Mahesh sir, you were the chairman of the Indian Rugby Football Union, so you understand the administrative side of the sports. So how much of Sandeep sir's real life struggle with the federation and the bureaucracy was influenced by your own experience in the sporting world?
Okay, so I wasn't actually the chairman. We had a different terminology. It was the president, but it's the same thing. I understand. Okay. So I'll tell you what. There was more of my experience playing and then getting into the management of a club. Okay, which was a rugby playing club, many years before that, and traveling as a team And we'd play in Calcutta, so we'd get on a train and go over. The most fun trips that we did were, these rugby trips, we went off to play in Calcutta and come back. So there was more learning from that. And then as I got a little senior, managing that bunch of 15, 20 amateur players, there was no money anywhere. How do you manage all of that? I probably learned more from that, and that had more connection to filming this than being the president of Rugby India, because as you said, that's politics and all of that. And if you look at the story of Shirish and Sohail, they have not yet really hit the politics of large size football. They've hit the politics of the bureaucracy. They don't really hit the politics of the sport. That's left for later.
Kilian sir, the BBC had already made a documentary, and when you're producing a dramatized event of the same story, is the goal to compete with it or find the spaces that the documentary hasn't reached yet?
I think Vishakha can probably speak to this a little bit too. I think we sort of ignored the documentary. If anything, we use it as research to sort of backstory for any of us to, including our actors, if you want, watch this. And I'm sure Mahesh watched it, Simaab, just because as Simaab said, going up into Kashmir, the more time you spend with something, the more you're going to be able to speak to it. But in terms of using that as a benchmark or as a metric for which direction we took our story, as you know, if you saw the show and you probably did some research in the actual club, we fictionalized a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it. Like 95% of it is probably fictionalized. The characters, yes, there was a guy, Sandeep, and another guy, Shamim. One was Hindu, one was Muslim, that decided to start a club in Kashmir, and it happened to be called Real Kashmir Football Club. After that, there are anecdotes and character traits and things, mostly Simaab and Amang and Vishakha knew because they had met these people early on. And some of that probably wove its way into the narrative. But Mahesh and I never met those real players, or at least I don't think Mahesh did. I know I didn't. I don't know the real people. I met Sandeep once. I met Shamim a couple times. So we were telling a story that took that spine, inspired by, and we took that inspiration, we ran with it, and as long as we didn't feel like we crossed any lines vis-a-vis maligning people or attributing things to people that would offend them or anything like that, and we were upfront with everybody from the get-go, we're fictionalizing this story, and you have to, because we weren't in the locker rooms, we weren't on the pitch, we weren't in the bedrooms, we weren't in the kitchens with all these people, as you would be for a documentary. So it's a good question, but again, I think we use it as research. And I think we were happy to have it. It gave us something that, at least could transport us back to a time and place that none of us, Simaab was closest to it. But even then, right, Simaab, you came in, the club had already been formed by the time you went up there. So it gave us some insight, and especially from like David Robertson, who was the Scottish, the real Douglas, to hear his point of view as an outsider and things like that probably many of us shared because we were all in a way outsiders to Kashmir. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
In fact, just to add to that, the actors, of course, Sandeep Chattu had passed on by the time we were filming, but even Shamim, the other, I didn't want the actors to meet them purely because it's not about playing those people in real life. It's the spirit of the story. So it's not, so none of, both Manav and Zeeshan are not in any form or mannerism copying or imitating or trying to be even similar to those two characters.
Yeah, and just to add to that, talking of the documentary that won the BAFTA, full disclosure, I haven't watched it. I didn't watch it then. I just saw the trailer. I was, and again, it's this. Now this is not connected, but years ago, 15 years ago, I did this film called Khele Hum Ji Jaan Se with Ashutosh Gavarekar, and I was playing this character of Preeti Lata Varedar. This is based on the Chittagong uprising, and I remember a lot of people told me to watch a couple of films in that space, and I was like, no, I'll not watch it. And I think that's kind of remained a kind of consistent across over the years for me. I think just the idea of telling a story of a normal, hopeful Kashmir was so radical and so inspiring to me, Simaab, Kilian, Mahesh, that the idea of comparing or thinking or benchmarking what we were making against a documentary or doing better than that it didn't even occur to us. In fact, I think for the first 2 years, 2019 is when Killian and I decided to work on this together. And until 2021, we didn't know what format we would be taking. Would we be making a series or a feature? And it was only in 2020 end is when we, I think, decided, okay, yes, we will make a series. Correct me if I'm wrong, Killian. I think that was the initial conversation. We were still deciding the format.
Yeah, I think we were looking, like you do with a lot of ideas, can it fill 6, 7, 8 episodes, or is it better off in a 2.5 hour movie? And most of that is, you can do either. You can cram anything into a movie and you can expand anything into a series. It's just what's the appropriate choice. And I think, like a lot of the other choices we make, we in this project, we took our time and came to what we thought was the best answer to the question.
We all love Indian Ocean's music. So why was Indian Ocean the right voice for the RKFC anthem? And where did this come from? Vishakha ma'am, if you may please.
Mahesh, sir.
It's very interesting. Without actually naming names, there was another song before this, before Indian Ocean came on to it, and which we wanted to get, and that was by a Kashmiri band, a Kashmiri singer. But because of his record label and the silly, I think, position that the record label took, we couldn't use the song because they were I think, demanding too much and being very, very precious about the rights and every bit that you used and all of that stuff. And we would have, at that point, I thought it was very suitable to have a Kashmiri singer band sing a Kashmiri anthem, etc., etc. There was also a version of the script that was slightly different from the one now. So when we passed that, we didn't absolutely need an anthem, but the thought came while we were, while the edit was going on. And very interestingly, the composers that started work on it's a collective of composers, but people that we first dealt with were Naren and Benedict, who are credited, but it's their team. There's Malar and they work all together. They are very close to Indian Ocean. Because they're managed by the same people and they interact a lot. And I know the Indian Ocean people for a long time because I've been doing stuff with music and, sort of we knew each other. So Naren one day said, what do you think if I ask, the Indian Ocean people to do a song? I said, that would be great. I can't ask them. It's a sort of big favor. And Naren said, why not? And that's where it started, and a very interestingly, and Killian, you want to take it from here on the words and all of
that? Yeah, sure. We had Mahesh and I had a mutual friend that we had been interacting with, maybe doing some dialogue work for us. I had hired her in the past on a compa, and she said, "Hey, listen, I wrote this song. I've been wanting to be a lyricist for many years, and I've written this thing. Will you guys read it?" And independently, we both read it, and Mahesh, I think, appreciated it more. I liked it, but it's hard for me because it was in Hindi. I had the English translation, and I know how powerful the words can be in Hindi. And Mahesh said, "No, this is really good." And so we had these lyrics, and before even having Indian Ocean or any notion of who was going to do that, we sort of optioned bought these lyrics from her, and we sent them over. I guess Naren sent them over to the Indian Ocean guys, and I think, like so many of these people, including myself and Mahesh and Vishakha, in reverse order, everybody who comes in touch with this show wanted to be part of it. And it was no surprise, actually, when we got the call and said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. Indian Ocean wants to do our anthem." I was like, yeah, we're very lucky and thankful for that. But of course they do. Everybody, very few people said no to us on the show in any capacity, whether it's, the actors, the editors, the DOP, everybody was attracted to the story and the coalition that we had put together of good people. And Indian Ocean was probably the last piece of the puzzle that we had been waiting on for this song. And like every other aspect of the series, it just came together, divinely or magically or however you want to attribute it to. So very lucky and blessed, as they say. But on the other hand, yeah, of course, Indian Ocean, why wouldn't they? Who doesn't want to be a part of this great show with this great team?
Yeah, it was one of the best part of the show. Okay, Samab, I want to ask you, there were so many debuts on the show. So when you write, do you write for specific for a non-actor, or do you let the director figure it out?
I don't know how long it will be for, and I mean, it's still already not like that. But I think in the long story short show format, we don't really have to think about actors a lot. I mean,
Okay,
I'm doing features and it's the complete opposite spectrum there, as so many others will tell you. But I think honestly, again, I think it'll point to my producers and then of course my we were never trying to make, and you hear a lot of these things about casting because of so many Instagram followers and things like that. I don't think anything of any kind, those kind of conversations came into our creative discussions. It didn't ever be about who is the person who we can mount the show on, or who would be a good name for the poster, or who would it never came down to that. It was always about who is the best person for this part. And we were very lucky that we got Zeeshan and Manav to be part of the. Sorry, I took that pause because I'm so used to calling them Zeeshan Bhai and Manav Bhai. That is so weird for them to call me anything else. But yeah, so it was really great to have them. And then, of course, the ensemble that we got. I mean, we were very lucky. And I think Mahesh can tell you more about that on how he picked them. But I think we were all very grateful and happy that we had those. Because, there was something, again, this is a learning I'm taking from here on. There's something beautiful about having people who don't have a set format, who have not worked a lot. So they're not playing to those beats that you're used to working on. They don't have those ins and outs that a more finished actor has. And I mean, I'd like to take Abhishant Rana's name, who played Aman.
right,
He's one of those boys. And again, I know it keeps saying that we're trying to tip our hat to each other, but a lot of actors, directors I know would fix Abhishant Rana. They people have a tendency of putting people in boxes which they feel comfortable in. And
right,
because Abhishant has a very different meter of how he operates. Like he would throw me off because I'll write a line in a certain meter and he would flip the meter, but it would still land. And I know of people who would tell Abhishant, nahi, 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 do it in the meter that it's written in. But I think Mahesa allowed Abhishant and several others, and I think that is why they look so good. You keep hearing the directors actor thing. I think newer actors are very dependent on the directors. Rajesh sir also in so many scenes, but primarily how Mahesa guided them and let them be is why I
right.
think we got what we got out of them. And I think Mahesa can tell you more about how and why he picked who he picked.
And before Mahesh does that, I just want to add, and this is now the actor in me speaking. I mean, kudos to Mahesh. Is such a delight as a director. I mean, I am somebody who has been in the industry for a while, and even though I haven't acted in a while, I'm still an actor. I have enough experience. But for newcomers, it's just a joy to be with somebody who gives you space, who doesn't have egos, who's not aggressive. Because there are many instances and there are these power dynamics that start happening on sets. And Mahesh is just lovely. He is so respectful and compassionate, I would say, to especially the younger actors. It's just phenomenal. Thank you, Mahesh.
Actually, I'm just jumping in for you, just to continue on the thought of what Simaab was saying. Once Manav and Zeeshan agreed to do this, and they were both first choices. Okay, in fact, everybody was first choice except maybe one or two actors. And the way they took to it, they made it their own. Okay, and they made it their own, and so they needed very little. Once they understood, once you spent time understanding the character, their understanding of the character, the script, all of once we got it. For every other actor, because these were the two leads, they filled the space. So everybody had to step up to that. It was not a point of telling them act like this or look, this is what we have. You need to step up and be. Every actor would have been internally, initially felt the challenge. My God, I got to step up. I got to be up to this standard. It's not. So I didn't need to tell somebody, prepare yourself. You're acting with these legendary actors. They brought themselves up, and one of the things, it's not just with actors, with any crew, any crew member. If you find that they know what they're doing, then let them do their best, because they will do their best when they do the best that they can of their own ability. If they can't, you can step in and help them. If they can't at all, you're in trouble, but then you step in completely and then, fix it. But if it doesn't need to be fixed, let every crew member rise up to their best, and if you've chosen a good crew, believe me, it's like an orchestra. They all know how to play. Just conduct them. Don't mess it.
The wedding scene in the football ground, it's arguably one of the best or most beautiful scene in the show. So can you tell us any anecdote from that night? Was it magical as it looked on the screen?
So you want to tell the anecdote of how that scene exists?
Yeah, actually, let Simab tell you how the scene came about, because that was not in the earlier, in a couple of drafts earlier. It wasn't there till quite late. It wasn't there, and then we faced the situation which Simab will tell you, and then we then talk about the
Improvised
shoot.
later.
No, it wasn't improvised in the shoot. It was
Okay.
It was a rewrite of a scene. Simab, you want to take it?
So the story exists in two parts, and I think it's the perfect example of necessity is the mother of all invention. Is because there's a football game. If you remember the show, there's a football game that they're supposed to go for, and for some reasons we were not able to manage to do that football game. And I remember me and Mahesh and Kilian were on a call thinking, how do we dig ourselves out of this hole now? We need something. How are we going to do this wedding? And the wedding was supposed to happen in a different way. And everything, it was all there, but it was happening in a very different way. And we were trying to think of what to do. And then there were certain beats that we wanted to hit in terms of storytelling, a plot, or emotionally, and how to make it all happen. And I think we just like, what about if we do the wedding at the ground? Like, what about that?
Can I pause you for 1 second, because
Yeah.
my memory of this is a little better.
Yeah.
So there was a point after Douglas came that he needed to make a difference. Okay. And so we talked about, maybe he'll do some piece of training. Maybe they'll go and climb up some mountain in Kashmir. Maybe he'll do something different from what Mustafa, the old coach, what it be. He needs to come. He's coming there. He's got 2 episodes. 2 episodes to create. What is he bringing to this team that's going to create magic? Okay. And then we thought, no, it just can't be physical. It can't be running, or it can't really be. So we were banging on, and there was a point that they were going to climb some slope, something physical like that, physical and mental stress, and coming through all of that. And we thought, what if he gives us a different inspiration? He gives the team a different inspiration, and that sort of led to where, and if you've seen how that plays out, he's almost at the end of, he doesn't know what to do, and he has this inspiring thought that, what, you can't do it, I can't do it, but we can all do it together. And that's a key thing to why the wedding takes place there.
Yeah. And then the part 2 to the conversation is the scene that we finally see at the wedding, right? Is another story where we were all on set and we were reading the scenes for the day. And I think we were all, me, Killian, and myself, we were all looking at each other like, I think we can better this. I think we are saying something we've already said, and we need to take it. Like, and there was always this, I think something that Killian did amazingly for me as a writer. I would like to believe that myself is the same as the director. Is that Killian used to always bring us back to, remember what you first told me? Or remember what this character was about? Or remember what this scene was about? So he was like always telling you what you told him. Because he'll be like, you told me the story and you were so passionate about it, right? What was that you were so passionate about? So he'll always try to bring you back to what was your pitch. And he would just tell me, but it's about these 2 people, right? It's about these 2 people. It's not about Douglas or whatever's happening. It's about them. It has to be them. It can't be, because Douglas is going away, that's why. It's because they are not seeing eye to eye on this right now. They're still not seeing the same picture. And I think if we went to a very back in the day style, which I think we mock now in 80s, 90s Bollywood, where you're writing scenes on set. And I remember we pulled a couple of chairs on the side while Mahesa was doing his thing and getting everyone going. And we wrote that scene out. We belted it out quickly. I would keep going. I write something, take it to Killian. He's like, now check with Mahesa. I did that Holy Trinity walk, and we finally got it right, I think. And when we took it to the actors, and then of course, like Mahesa said, we had this blessing of Manav, Kaul, and Zeeshan, Ayyub, who are, I think, actors but also writers in their own, where they will just change a beat, change a pause and then make the scene so much better than it already is. So I think, like I said, necessity is the mother of invention, was what this whole wedding sequence was about. And it's funny that you pointed this out, because I think this is the most anecdotal sequence in one of the most anecdotal sequences in our show.
Yeah, and to add to that, when Killian called me to tell me that the wedding is now happening on the ground, I think our reaction was, "Oh, great! We don't have to look for another location, because this location we got a lot of bulk dates for this location, so it was killing two birds with one stone."
Sometimes as the writers, directors, you have to think about production-friendly solutions also, right? What can I do in this existing location and still make it look like this is what we wanted in the first place?
And that one thing of Aman, all of those people are, sitting, all the boys, I mean, everyone's sitting there, and Aman just goes in and jumps. That was natural. They'd become that. Okay, that whole team had become that. They did that scene because it came naturally to them, and then to have Manav, Zeeshan, look at them and say to the Shirish character, I don't know what you see, but I see a club. That's just so brilliant.
Do you want to tell them where the scene was shot?
Reveal the location. In the valley of Kashmir, Srinagar Valley.
So I think the producers would want to answer the next one. Where does SonyLIV come in? Like, I've kept telling in my reviews that SonyLIV original has to be one of the best in recent times. So where does they come in? Like, was it a hard to sell pitch to them, or because it's only OTTs are taking action and thrillers nowadays? So was it a hard to sell pitch?
You want me to go, Vish? Yeah.
Yeah, Killian, you take it.
Yeah, no, Sony was great. We everything that we've talked about for the last hour on our session has been about the freedom and the collaboration and the trust we all had in each other and the actors and the environment that Mahesh and Rajesh too on set created, where everybody, again, whether it was Zeeshan or Manav or some of the younger actors or some of the crew, the HODs, everybody had inputs, and they were not afraid to give their inputs because they were given a safe space, as the actors like to call it, to experiment, and there was no such thing as a bad idea. There were bad ideas that got shot down, of course, but there was a sense of camaraderie and community on our set where anybody could bring anything to the table at any time. And sometimes we did like, hey, you know what, guys, let's have a timeout. Everybody go have a chai. We're going to talk about this for 20 minutes and get it right. And if we lose 20 minutes, we'll make it up on the back end because it's more important to get it right. So we really had a good environment. And one of the reasons we had that is because we had total freedom. As Mahesh said, he could cast anybody he wanted. We didn't have to go get permissions from somebody, as Simaab mentioned, to get the face for the trailer, for the poster, or the name that's going to put us into theatrical. And it's disappearing, that freedom. But we had that freedom because we were doing it ourselves. So we made the show we wanted to make, but took the risk that maybe it's not the same show that we're not a platform. We don't have a relationship with the consumer. We have to eventually find a distributor, some platform that's going to take this and show it to the world. And Sony immediately seized on it. I mean, we went over there and waited outside the screening room for them to watch the first two episodes. And when we finished, Danish Khan, who was running the show there, said, let's go down to my office. We had this march down the corridor into the lift and down, then down another corridor through all the cubicles into his corner office, and it was silence the entire way. It was like going to see the headmaster, and then it was clear within Mahesh 30 seconds that, oh my God, he was gonna take this show. He said, this is going to be on Sony, and they believed in the show. He said, thank you for making such a brave show. It's going to be up on Sony, and they then put a stamp on it. Because we had some time while we delivered all the episodes. We had sort of finished. In our minds, we were finished, but we were prepared to be up on air as soon as possible. They had some very good suggestions. They had a handful of things. We had a couple conference calls with everybody, and
so
some of the ideas
wasn't a handful. Huh? It was like one or two.
No, but they had a handful. But in fairness to them, some of the ones that we didn't agree with, we debated very quickly, and they said, "Okay, let that one go." It ended up being one or two very good ones that we grasped on, and some minor ones, and we had to do some legal compliances and things like that as well. But their notes were very appreciated us for two reasons. One, they made the show better, and two, they were actionable. They were they knew where we were in our part, we were very close to the end of our process, and they knew where they wanted to be. They wanted this up on the air, so they weren't giving us, let's recast this actor and reshoot these scenes kind of notes. That they gave us notes that they realized, because they're all very seasoned filmmakers, Shogat and his team and Danish, they realized where we all wanted to be in 8 weeks, and so they gave us what we call actionable notes, and they were great, and we were able to do them because we shared the same vision. We had the resources to go and do some more shooting, especially some Kashmiri stuff, with not a lot of time and not a lot of money, and get the actors in to record some new lines that we all, got together and said, here's what we're missing here. And Simaab was able to, with Mahesh, able to turn these around and get the actors to go back in and, loop them. As for those of you who know, the filmmaking, it's something that often helps fill some holes in your, or accentuate some things that you might have not hit as hard as you wanted to. And we were able to do that, and the show was better for it. And Sony was behind it from day one, and did a lot of, you saw the hoardings around town, you saw the, size the buses, and, it was a great journey with them. And we think they're pretty pleased. The critical response was good, both publicly and privately. So I hope that answers your question again.
And just to add to what Killian was saying, one of the things that was most beautiful about how Sony did it was and it's a very small thing when you look at it, but it really felt very nice to me, was how they worded their emails when they would send us their feedback. It would be like, what, this is what we think we can do, but it's your show and you know better how to do it. It wasn't do this and do this and do this. A lot of it was, this is what we think this scene requires, and we will let you the best way to figure out how to do this. So I think that can only come from someone like Killian said, who understands the filmmaking process and understands that the director, the showrunner should be able to tell his story his way, but also be conscious of what the platform wants out of a certain part of the episode. So I think that was something that really stayed with me, of how this book, and I always respect Sony in my heart for what they did with those small things, of just being respectful to the makers, to a director, to a showrunner, and respect the process of doing what they want us to do.
But I think that's just an extension. I think you're right, Simaab, but what Mahesh sir said earlier. He gave that same respect to his actors and his writers, and in turn, the platform gave that to him and us. So, not a coincidence at all.
Karma exists.
And also talking about what SonyLIV gave us even before the release was in 2022. So we were in conversation with, Killian was in conversation with a lot of platforms, even before we went on floor as well. And they were aware that we were making this show. And in 2022, when we were actually scouting for our director, it was Shogat from SonyLIV who recommended that we connect with Mahesh. So I would always say that Mahesh is a gift from SonyLIV to us, or from Shogat to us.
And we gave them the gift back.
Well,
That you definitely did.
The concept of Kashmiriyat. So it's a word that is often misused. So how did the team ensure that the show captured the real Kashmiriyat and not a very filmy version of it?
Kashmiriyat as a word is simple, but there were lots of discussions bordering on arguments, because we realized that the misuse and the use of, owning something can be very often misinterpreted. So one of the ways, if you're not sure, is that don't use that word. Let's not go there. And we discussed it a lot, and finally we had to take a call that, hold on, if we get the meaning of that, of what is Kashmir, because what was happening is, there are, even within the story, there's at least two Kashmiriyats, because there are two characters who are saying, okay, that's his Kashmiriyat, and what is my Kashmiriyat? But one of the things, like a lot of other words, when they've been hijacked. So the worry was, because I was hearing the comment in Kashmir that the word Kashmiriyat has been hijacked. So be very careful about when you use it. Now, one of the things, when a word has been hijacked, it's a difficult one. But, when it's a beautiful word, you want to actually go back and use it the way it is and not use the hijacked version. It is like, okay, I'm just using the word jihad. Okay, now jihad is a word that has been hijacked. Okay, it is very difficult to use the word jihad in anything without going wrong. Okay, and that was the example I was given. They said, like jihad, Kashmiriyat has been hijacked, and I said, oh God, this is a tricky one. But I'm glad that we persevered and found the truthful and meaningful use of the word, and were able to bring it on. So I'm very happy that you've asked how did we get Kashmir? It was something we had to ponder, discuss a lot,
Great.
I think, yeah, just to add one thing to what Mahesh has said, I think what we kind of exclusively and looked at was, for us, there was an idea of it being inclusive, that there's a Kashmiriyat that says this is for everybody. We are all included in this.
Right.
There is one that talks about exclusivity. And I think that's what the two spectrum that we said, that this is everyone is welcome. And then there is someone who's saying that you're not welcome. And I think that is what we were trying to catch at. I think it's just about that.
In fact, we took it on directly head on. The girl, the reporter, goes and actually, sorry, Killian, were you going to say that?
No, I was exactly going to say Nagat. We had a vehicle to explore that through Nagat because she asks the same question to Sohail that she asked to Sarish that she asked to Nazir, and she gets a completely different answer to the same question by design.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it was so important for us as a team to get it right because none of us are Kashmiris here, right? And we were telling a story, Kashmir. So we had to be extra cautious, extra cognizant of getting this right. And of course, we had a lot of help from the Kashmir voices that we've had, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. In terms of the team that was supporting Mahesh. I think we have had a lot of Kashmiris on our sets, not just when we were in Kashmir, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Adir Bhatt had a lot to do with it. Every line of the screenplay he poured through and sat with Simaab. I think you guys did a whole week-long session.
I was just going to say that. I think we just left it to people whose identity Kashmir is attached to help us make those calls. We didn't want to be like, oh, this is our opinion, this is what we think. I think we tried to just understand. I think we realized EQ was the way to, empathy was the way to go, and try to understand where they are coming from and try and tell it as it is, as opposed to, like Mahesa said, tell excuse my French, bastardized version of that word.
I think the best thing you can do as a creator and as a filmmaker is obviously we all have our personal biases and opinions, but if you can have a neutral lens and you can tell a story like this, you got to present what you want to present, but you don't have to skew it such a way that makes everybody have no choice as to what they think. Put it out there and let the audience make their own mind up about what they feel about the issues, and obviously it's hard to talk about Kashmir without somebody bringing up the politics, and we can't ignore that politics, but we don't have to necessarily take a stance one way or the other about it. We just say, look, here's what we saw. This is pretty neutral and pretty honest. You make up your own mind what you think.
Okay, next question. And anyone who want to take it, there's this global debate about streaming versus theaters. James Cameron in a recent interview said that if Netflix doesn't release their film in at least 2,000 screens, it isn't a motion picture and they shouldn't be allowed to, for the Academy Awards because it's the Academy of Motion Pictures and Science. So what's your take on that?
Let's talk to the person.
Politics.
I'm saying let the person who's closest to James Cameron and pin code give that answer.
Here's all I gotta say. There's no right or wrong answer. I came out of film, right? I've spent my whole career working on films, and then the last 5, 6, 7 years, like a lot of people, I've shifted over and done some streaming series. There's room for both. It's short term versus long term. It's theatrical versus streaming. I watched a movie the other night, whatever it's called, the Rip, the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck movie on Netflix. Right. I also went to the theater 5 times last 2-3 weeks and watched movies in the theater too, that happen to be off in the theater. There's some movies deserve to be on a theatrical release, some don't, but I think as evidenced by Durandar, the people will go to the cinemas worldwide for a Hindi language movie, for instance, like that broke all the records, right? So cinema's certainly not dead. I have a lot of, I won't be as radical as James Cameron or as and say that streaming doesn't exist. I mean, I think Chris Nolan, if you guys saw him speak a few years ago at the NCPA, he was talking about you should make what you want. He goes, I like to make things on IMAX 70 millimeter. But if you like to make something on your iPhone, you should make it. If you want to put something up on YouTube, then good for you. Like everybody should have the power to do what they want to do. And so I don't think there's any right or wrong. I think we all trying to find an audience. I think we'd all love to find a theatrical audience if we can, but if you put it whatever to say, there's a minimum screen count. It counts you as whether.
Yeah,
I think that's wrong. Like I'll tell you what, the last 3 Oscar winners for Best Picture definitely were not on 2,000 screens. Anora, Coda, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. We're lucky if they hit 600 screens, and probably those, especially for Coda and for Anora, those screens probably came after they won the Oscar. So I think that flawed logic for me.
I don't think it's one versus the other. It's today you can get everything you want at home. You cannot just movies, food, every experience you can. But what do you go out for? You go out for social experiences or community experiences. So the point of going to the cinema is, the film changes or whatever you're watching. If you go to a film festival, watch a film, and usually the filmmakers are there, doesn't it change the experience of watching, a piece of cinema? So in that same way, when you go and watch a film with 300, 500,000 people, it changes the film itself. It changes your experience, and that changes the film. And I think that's what's important. If you sit at home alone and watch a movie, it can be wonderful. I watch a lot of stuff at home alone, but it's a different thing when you watch it in the community. And therefore, I don't think it's a format versus the other format. It's an experience versus, and I think both experiences should work. In fact, I hope Netflix maybe starts releasing the first episode of all their long form there. Bang, first episode out of the cinema, rest you watching.
I was saying, just as a maker, I think, also you want to enjoy, you want to make things for different places, right? There's a fun of, like I said, there's something about watching Real Kashmir at home where you get to live with those people. And then there is a joy about the other things I'm working on where you want to have that music kick in when the hero comes in, right? There's a joy as a maker also of, because in India we grew up on everything, right? I mean, we watched everything. We grew up on watching our heroes and idolizing them on screens. And there is a Manmohan Desai fan in you who wants to make that movie, right? Who wants to take that horse cart and go through and enter the swimming pool when they're saying Indians and dogs not allowed. So I'm saying there is a person in me who wants to say those stories also. And I think communal viewing is the way to go for those stories, right? While I would also like to have the freedom to make my Real Kashmir, if people want to stream at home and, like you said, watch till 3 a.m. in the night. So I think if in an ideal situation as makers, I think we're blessed if we have both worlds. And I think like Killian said, the fact that movies that people are coming back to the cinemas last year, this year, we're seeing people, the trends are just going back. People are coming and watching movies in the theater. I watch 3, 4 movies and I'm seeing them theaters. It's not numbers that I'm reading. I see people inside. I'm seeing people of all age groups watching movies. They kept, and these naysayers say, oh, the youngsters are not coming or the families are not coming. I'm seeing all kinds of people come to the movies. So I think the movies are not going away, but I hope the streaming also helps us, lets us make things that we might not be able to make for the cinemas.
But I think even moreover, all of us have relatively good access into Bollywood, and we can't go make a series tomorrow. We can't go make a theatrical movie tomorrow. We have to unlock funds. We have to unlock actors to unlock those funds. It's all a thing. Going back, Bhavesh, to your original notion of what does the third or fourth city teenager do,
Right.
and everything else we've talked about, perseverance and believing in your dream and wanting to tell your story. You can go tell that story. You can find an audience. You don't. Yes, maybe someday these people will be making films that go out on 2,000 screens or 500 screens or even get theatrical at all. But maybe that's a long way away, and that shouldn't stop you. There shouldn't be that barrier to entry that there used to be, because now you can do it all yourself at home. I mean, I just saw Apple just, at least here in the US, for like $129 a year or something like that. You can buy the Apple, you can release the software right from Apple, the Creative Content Suite or whatever it's called now. This just came out like 2 weeks ago. Rakesh is nodding, so he's saw this. But like, you can sit at home in tier 4 city and shoot something on your iPhone and edit it and put some music in and make something with your friends. And then with something like YouTube or whatever else, you can put it out to the world. Now, there's a lot of noise and chaff out there, but the cream hopefully rises up. I see a lot of stuff on YouTube that people send to me that's very entertaining. And that's all I think cinema or streaming or anything is. It's about entertainment. And I think sometimes we get lost in the business of it all and the barrier to entry. And we got to remember, we're there to entertain and we're there to be entertained as an audience. And so the door is open for people to tell their stories and in a let's call it a professional way. You have the software, the editing tools, the music mixing stuff. Even on the lens on your iPhone is powerful enough to. I think Mahesh or someone said that earlier. Go shoot it, or some mobs shoot it on your phone, and then you have the distribution mechanism now through a YouTube to be able to put that out. Whether you find an audience or not, who knows? But there's no more. You can't sit at home and complain like, oh, I can't get to this. I can't. I don't have Shah Rukh Khan in my movie, so it's never going to get made. So what? Use your neighbors, use your moms, cast your sister, whatever you want to do, and make something cool, and make it well, and put it up, and it will catch fire.
And to every 18 who's watching, right, in tier 2, tier 3, this tells me that Killian Kerwin sitting in LA is watching. There's a studio producer who's watching what you're putting out on YouTube. There's a Vishakha Singh who's sitting there watching. There's a Mahesh Mathai who's going to sit there and read a blog that you read and think, oh, there's a writer in you. So just for people who think, oh, who's going to read this or who's going to watch this? One of my all-time favorite horror movies, the movie is called Lights Out, which was a short film, which then became a feature film. So that is because there is a Killian Kerwin watching, there is a Vishakha Singh watching, there is a Mahesh Mathai watching. And no matter how many naysayers can come and tell you this is dying, this is never going away. And you have everything in your hand right now. Just go out and make it. I mean, Real Kashmir took 6-7 years to make. Every year we felt like, oh, this is never going to happen. Oh, this is never going to happen. And you know what? Is the show never going to happen? And I think we all kept that belief alive in each other. So I think, honestly, the one thing that I think is most important is what Rakesh and Bhavesh you are to each other. I think your tribe is very important. I think that is what I would implore everybody to do. Build your tribe. Build the people around you. You have a friend who wants to be an actor, help him shoot something for himself.
Right.
You have a friend who wants to write something, help him make that. Because very soon one of you will get caught in that and make it out of there. And then you make sure everyone around you is where you are. So I think that's very important. I started out as an intern, and there are a lot of people who I'm working with now who are on film sets or producers who now have the agency they didn't have when I was an intern when I was 19 years old. And now they're calling me and saying, you know what, we waited 10 years, so let's make a movie together. So these are all things we were trying to do together at some point of time. And now we all kind of have the agency, like Killian said, we know people. And so many times it's not for yourself. You want to make a phone call for your friend because you did a great script, and I think that is the most important thing, that we have a connection of cinema and we can build our tribe and we can do so much more. And I think our show for me is the proof that I keep saying this, a lot of people when I would go and pitch my story to, and of course Vishakha was there with us, we were pitching these stories and talking to people about Real Kashmir. And people were saying, oh, but like you said, oh, it's not, where's the drama of Kashmir? Where's what we're so used to watching in terms of pop culture Kashmir, right? And it took a man from LA to see what there was in this show, right? So I'm saying if we could find Killian, you can find your own Killian. I'm not giving mine away. He's mine. I'm not giving him away. But you can find your own Killian. I'm sure he's out there.
No, and that's kind of you, Simaab. But my point is, like, you don't need Killian or Simaab or Mahesh or Vishakha. You can do it yourself. Empower yourself, and your tribe will come. Build it, and they will come too. So,
like we asked Samat Mahajan in our first episode, so we want to end this on recommendation. So can each of you recommend one indie filmmaker or musician or even an Instagram page that the world should be watching out right now?
Oh God, don't let me come up with anything.
I think Simaab will recommend for all of us.
So it's strange, actually. I was just watching something very cool. There is a lovely creator called Vaibhav Munjal, who we've been following. We all have Chalchitra. Yeah, we really appreciate what he does for cinema and how he speaks about it. He's made a really, really, really cool movie called Scenes from a Situationship, which I have not completed yet. I was watching it just before. I was actually sitting in a music section and we were like, oh, I have some time. I want to start watching this film, and I really am into this movie right now, and I think it's so fresh, so different, and he just put on YouTube. Like, I think this is a nice segue into our conversation because he's not gone for a platform, and I'm sitting here talking to you about a movie. I know a gentleman in America who's going to watch this movie now, maybe because I recommended
Please
it.
send me the link, please.
So I'm saying, I'm saying it's the
Put it on the group.
democracy of the platform, and I think there's a beautiful story. I think it's something that Weber felt strongly about. It's something that I think the young people can relate to because dating is very, very hard, and from a kind of a young person in me, I'm saying this kind of young. I think I am now, but yeah, it's very relatable. It's very cool. It's very new, and it's cinema, but it's on YouTube. So I think that's my recommendation.
I have to say Neeraj Gaiwan. I absolutely have to. He's somebody I've met long ago, and it's also very serendipitous that we were doing the mixing of this show of RKFC, in the mixing studio with our wonderful sound designers, and Kilian was there, and Kilian knows more people in the Indian film industry than the three of us multiplied by 10.
I conquer.
Yeah. So we were in one studio, and he said, "Oh, I just go next door and say I keep Neeraj." And I didn't know what Neeraj. There are many Neerajas. Who do you want? What's going on? Anyway, so he goes off into the studio next door, and we were, hearing pre-mixes or something. And he comes back with Neeraj Gaiwan, who I recognized, but I wasn't sure. We had met long time ago, and really signing that circle in the lobby of the studio, we just sort of he said, I remember you because of something you said long ago, etc.
No, sorry. Can I just interject because Sir's too humble to say it. I was there, luckily. Neeraj Gaiwan, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "I'm a big fan, and I have learned so much from your craft, sir. And I'm so happy to meet you. And I'm so excited to hear that you're making a show. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. And that is why I left my room and I came to meet the legend that is Mahesh Mathai. He will never admit it."
A little bit of exaggeration, but anyway, so it was great. We just hugged each other, and re-met. And then he was obviously doing the final mix of Homebound there. Okay? And which I'd heard about, and I think literally a week later or something, he got all the nominations, and the show took off. Okay, and then he called me to watch screening, and he gave me an option. One was the premiere, and 2 days before was the uncut version. So I said, absolutely uncut version. That's what I want to see, and I went and saw it, and it is not only his aesthetic, his sentiment, all the things that he stands about. And if you watch the show, all the politics, every part of it just resonated with me in every sense. And I started refollowing his journey. I know he's filmmaking, but refollowing his journey, and I've been reading interviews about what he, why the story and why stories like that are so important to him. So for me, watch that space. Neeraj Gaiwan, he is underlining and digging into areas that are difficult to discuss in India, that are not spoken about. That he's saying those things. He's out there doing interviews, talking about Dalits and upper class Hinduism, and things that don't come into our conversation. So I'm a big fan. So I would say Neeraj Gaiwan, Homebound, anything he does.
Vishakha ma'am.
Well, I've watched Echo, and I was just telling Kilian about this last night. I am absolutely in love with what Diljit Ayatan has done with Echo, and I think it's the combination of the combination of Diljit's work as well as what Baul Ramesh, the writer, and he's also the cinematographer. Film. It's just amazing what together they've created, and I think, and they've worked before also, if I'm right. So I'm assuming. I think when you have that kind of trust in your tribe, as Simaab said, right, you do end up creating something beautiful. So definitely somebody to watch out for. And I think it has, and I have been interested in Malayalam cinema for the last 4-5 years. And this is just kind of, I'm just more focused on Malayalam cinema all of a sudden after watching Echo also.
Same.
And after that, on Instagram, there is an actor called Molishri. She's making this small film called Nukkad, and she keeps traveling, if I'm right, across places, and she's trying to release it. And I think what she's doing is absolutely beautiful, So that's somebody I would definitely watch out and see what she's up to and what she basically makes. But she's so consistent that I'm pretty sure that she's going to be a name to reckon with in the future.
Kilian sir.
This is going to sound like pandering, but I can't wait to see what Simaab does next, what Vishakha does next, what Mahesh does next, and
Right.
and all of our actors. Because now I'm sounding way too blanket, but Abhishek Rana in particular, like these are people I've worked with now over the last year and a half on this show in particular, and I know their strengths and their skill sets, and then especially Abhishek and Simaab.
Spoiler, we're
I can't
working
wait to
together.
see. Huh?
Spoiler, we're working together.
I look forward to that too. Yes, please. Yes, please. But it sounds very, as I said, pandering, but very sincere. I can't wait to see what comes out of Samab's brain next, and the rest of my colleagues on this. Not with me, independent. I know they're all working on things that have nothing to do with me, and that's what I look forward to.
Right.
Honestly,
My final question was that only. What's actually next for you guys? Is there any season 2 or is
season
there?
2 on RKFC is up to Sony. That's not our call.
Oh,
That's right. I mean,
right.
Sony, if they don't think it's worth a second season, then that's not because of anybody's love for the show. It's about what the audience numbers do. And as we know, it's show business and it's a business. And so we took the risk. We made the show. Sony came on board and distributed the show. We're very grateful for that. Now we'll have to trust their leadership as to whether it's financially worth a second season or not.
Okay, that was it. I think anything we've left you wanna add, you can.
I mean, I think I just want to say thank you, Rakesh and Bhavesh, first of all, for watching
Thank
our
you.
show, giving it so much love, and talking about it. I think what you guys are doing are very, very important. I mean, I would still like to say we're still a very mainstream show in the sense of, like he said, we got Sony to distribute the show. They did a banging job trying to promote our show. But there are so many of these gems that get missed out by a lot of people. Me included, I feel guilty. Sometimes I keep talking about how when we're making movies, we don't get to watch enough because you know how hard it is for us to. It's a very hard job, time, everything is very hard, and we try to do our best to watch as much as we can. But these gems kind of we miss these gems sometimes, and it's people like you, Rakesh and Bhavesh, who bring these out to people and tell us that, hey, there's a great movie that you missed out. There's a great show that you missed out. I think you're doing God's work, Saraswati's work here. So thank you so much, and really, really appreciate it. And hope
Yes, thank
hope
you.
people watch our show because of this. Thank you.
It means
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thank you, team, for joining us. And
Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank
Bhavesh.
you.
people who are watching back home, please do watch Real Kashmir Football Club. It's streaming on SonyLIV right now. Please, I urge and request you to. It's one of the best shows that came out in 2025. That it changed me in some way. Yeah, it did. It definitely did. What I looked at Kashmir and how it was made. It was beautiful. Thank you, guys.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. See you, people.
See you. See you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye.